Inside the Jungle. We're back for another episode of the podcast. Good news, Bengals fans. We get to talk about a win. Winning, that's right. The Bengals are victorious over the weekend over the Jacksonville Jaguars. Battle of the Cats, and the Bengals prevailed. So we're going to talk about the win, what it means for the Bengals going forward. Of course, we're going to talk about Joe Burrow. You just know we're going to hear. We'll talk a little A.J. Green, I'm sure. And, of course, we'll wrap up the show with a look ahead to what should be a what should we say? A return to the real world this weekend against the Baltimore Ravens. Of course, if you want to get in touch with us, you can tweet at us at Inside Jungle Pod on Twitter. You can also email us insidethejunglepod@gmail.com. All right, let's welcome back to the show the one and only Mickey Menser. Mickey, how was your weekend, buddy? You good?
The weekend was good. Wins are good, right, Nick? It's definitely something we've not been used to in the last 2 years. So, hey, a win's a win. That was a good game to watch.
It was a good game to watch. Really, you could say, for the most part, all three facets of the game kind of did their part, which is good. Somewhat complimentary football. I'm sure there's some improvements in some different areas, but glad to have you back on the show. We're also glad to have back on the show, beam me up, Scott Bantel. Scott, how are you?
Doing well. We said the Bengals needed this victory, maybe a must-have win, and they got it. And like you said, we saw a lot of good in all areas of the team this weekend.
Absolutely. And last but certainly not least,
definitely
over on the best coast, the left coast, the background king himself, Anthony Cosenza. AC, what's up, buddy?
Well, like you said, we're talking about a win here. It took 12 weeks last year for them to get a win, and they got it in 4 this time. So, hey, we'll take it. We'll take it. I think, like Scott said, it was a must-win kind of game for a lot of different reasons, whether you want to consider, any kind of unlikely postseason implications or Zach Taylor's job security, all that stuff. I'm sure we're going to talk about that, but they needed to have that game, and they got it. So we'll take it.
That's right. A win is a win at this point, especially with how painfully close the Bengals had been the last couple of weeks. Let's kick off the show by giving some dap, right? Give some props here, because if you listen to last week's episode, I laughed when this man said that the Bengals would rush for 200 yards. And Mickey, you nailed it, buddy. You said in your bold prediction last week that the Bengals would rush for over 200 yards. They ended the day with 205. So props to you, my man.
That's big. You laughed. Scott made faces. But I just thought the trajectory that the Bengals were going with throwing the ball as much as they were, it wasn't sustainable, right? And I was nervous because, at the beginning of the game, it looked like we were doing our runs were getting stuffed. We weren't getting much. And then chunks started happening. And towards the end, I pulled up the stats. And I started doing the math. I'm like, crap, I might have this. So, yeah, it was cool.
It was really cool. I think a large part of your prediction, there's a couple of factors here, right? One, they didn't need to throw it 55 times like they have in the past 3 weeks. 2, I think Myles Jack going out for the Jaguars certainly helped the Bengals cause. And 3, I think for at least a week, the Bengals solved their problem at right guard. Alex Redmond actually kind of sort of played okay. Like, there weren't glaring issues. There wasn't Joe Burrow running for his life. And so, but I think running the football helped all of that, Mickey. So props to you, buddy.
Yes.
Another props we must give is to Scott. So I thought Mickey was crazy when he said that the Bengals were going to rush for 200 yards. And then Scott topped it with the Bengals are going to allow 0 sacks. I was like, you got to be kidding me. These guys, I know they're out of practice. It's been 4 years, but tell you what, Scott, I'm going to ding you for one thing, a sack late in the game on a slide behind the line of scrimmage. But if you take that away, Joe Burrow did not get sacked in the game. So I'm going to give you props on your bold prediction as well.
It was a weak sack. Nick. I don't know who got the credit for it. I don't know
Couldn't tell you.
how they even live with getting credit for a sack like that. The Michael Strahan sack of Joe Burrow, but yeah, I don't know if it was Alex Redmond. I don't know if it was the quality of the competition. Maybe it's a little bit of getting the run game established, like Mickey had predicted. But for 1 week they kept Burrow clean, and they got the lead, which probably helped as well.
Yes, it did. And I don't know about you, Anthony. I have not had a chance to see the Pro Football Focus scores because that was your prediction. But yeah, I think you said over 70 would be the grades for all 5. You're muted. I can't hear you, buddy.
You think I'd be used to the? I should be in practice here. Jeez Louise. But yeah, no. I think I was a little off there on my prediction with the scores there.
What's up, buddy?
Hey. I was a little off with my scores there, but hey, Jonah Williams is playing really good football. Trey Hopkins, of course, is playing good football. Alex Redmond, I'm beginning to think that instead of, if you look at the metrics or the data and all of that, the scores aren't overly lofty, but I almost wonder, just he and Bobby Hart playing next to each other, they've played together before. I almost wonder if they just have this cohesion that Bobby Hart doesn't seem to have with the other guards that have been placed next to him, and maybe that's what we saw a little bit on Sunday.
I don't want to get too carried away because let's be honest, it's the Jacksonville Jaguars, right? They aren't exactly the best team in the NFL currently, defensively at least. But you're right. I mean, maybe this is the start of something positive that the Bengals can build on, right? I'm not saying that the Bengals are going to go out and rush for 100 yards this week against Baltimore, and that's probably going to be a tough task. But the line play as a whole, Mickey, was significantly better this weekend. I know it's the Jaguars, but at least from what this team has struggled with the last 3 weeks, you can say that was not an issue on Sunday.
Agreed. Yeah, the line looked good. They were playing the JV Jacksonville Jaguars, so that's what you expect. But yeah, I mean, I know we're not talking about next week yet, but they're going to have their hands full. The Bengals had better be creative when they go into that game.
When you saw that Redmond was getting the start, Scott, what was your thoughts?
I was actually excited, which is a bit surprising because I bashed on Redmond a bunch over the past few years because he's, quite frankly, been pretty bad. But that just goes to show how bad the right guard situation had been. I thought I didn't notice bad plays, so that's a win, right? The last couple games, that right guard spot has been a gaping hole, and I didn't notice it being that way. So I take that as he played well.
Yeah. And honestly, the person who benefited the most from the play of the offensive line was one Joe Mixon, right? That was a game when he signed his contract this offseason, you were hoping we were going to see more of, right, Anthony? I mean, this is a guy who is being paid, top 5 in the league at his position now. And this weekend, 3 touchdowns, over 150 yards rushing, just played like the guy we have been waiting for the last 3 weeks. But that offensive line in front of him certainly allowed him to do his thing.
Yeah, and the scheme provided some lanes for him and even Gio Bernard. If you remember, almost in back-to-back plays, I think it was a span of a couple of plays, Gio Bernard had a nice run down the right side, and then Joe Mixon popped a long run down the right side for a touchdown. But arguably his best game as a pro, 3 total touchdowns, 180-plus total yards from scrimmage. It was a great game by Joe Mixon, and a game that I think a lot of fans wanted and needed to see out of him after signing that contract this offseason. And, the one thing I'm worried about, Nick, and I'm sure we'll talk about it as we start to preview the Ravens game and whatnot, but the one thing I'm worried about is, this was a game really that the Bengals were supposed to win. It was a game that they should have put up some offensive stats, and they did, which is good. Now let's see the blocking against a good Baltimore team. Let's see the run game produce against a good Ravens defense. And let's see Joe Mixon really continue to show his worth against a quality opponent like Baltimore.
Yeah. Let's also keep in mind that it was as close to a perfect game the Bengals have played. We'll just say this season, right? I mean, they finally got a win. Offense, tons of yards. Defense made stops when they needed to. But there are certain moments in this game that you're still wondering how like I'll go. Let's say the interception, right, for Burrow in the first half. They're on the 1-inch line on second and goal. They get stuffed. Third and goal, they throw the pick on a play that really, let's be fair, Drew Sample probably should have caught that ball. Mickey, great play by Jack to make the interception, but even then, the play calling, you're probably scratching your head. And hindsight is 2020, I know, but there's a lot of points they left on the field there in the first half. This really should have been over at halftime.
Yeah, you know what I was going to say, Nick. Hey, Sample catches that ball. No one's questioning that pick at all. No one's questioning that play call.
And Joe Burrow's the greatest. Yeah, I get it.
Right. So I don't know. I don't hate that. Those are some of the growing pains that happen. I mean, is Sample really the tight end that you would want to lead your team from the tight end position? Probably not. But I don't know. It was there. Bounced off the face mask. I don't know. I don't have a problem with that play call. I think that's a total hindsight call.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it seemed like at the beginning, I don't know if we were more conservative, we were playing tight. It seemed different, but then yeah, as the game went on, they definitely opened up. I agree, they left a blot out there, but it was good to see them, kind of adjust and settle into that game.
And it's not just that play too, Scott. I mean, there was a play, there was a drive in the first half after the interception of Minshew that it was like the Bengals go 3 and out. Like, really? Like, you have to wonder. And now, man, maybe it took Zach Taylor a moment to get into the game and get a feel for how things were going. But again, are you concerned about the lack of points scored there in the first half?
Not really concerned with the point score. I was frustrated with the play calling in that first quarter. Most of the first half, that first drive you hit on was a perfect example. That was another, short completion on first down, I think 2 yards, 3 yards, and then the typical second and long run that went nowhere, and then I think an incompletion. And I actually did have a problem with the play call to Drew Sample, because we've seen that twice now with the Bengals this year, where they've been on the inside the 1 yard line, and rather than just QB sneak it, they've done something. Last time I think it was they shuffled it out wide to Mixon, lost 4 or 5 yards. This time they throw an interception. So I just the play calling to me is still a bit out of whack. I thought it picked up in the second half. That works against a team like Jacksonville. You can't have a half of bad play calling against a team like Baltimore, or some of these teams, they have it coming up on their schedule. It's just, it won't work.
How about you, AC? What did you think of the play calling there in the first half?
Well, obviously, the missed points opportunity off the interception that you mentioned was, kind of a killer early on, and then they punt the ball and it goes in the end zone, and it's a touchback to end it. So it's like, what are you doing there? That was pretty frustrating. And then, there was kind of still those dry spells. The mistake by Sample, there was actually 2 mistakes by Sample. He had another ball kind of go through his hands in the end zone later. Luckily, Joe Mixon took that swing pass and took it in the end zone from there. But, the Bengals have to figure out how they're going to use Drew Sample properly. Maybe this was just an aberration of a game where he had 2 missed opportunities. You have to wonder, CJ Uzomah, if he's healthy, does he make those plays? That's something, what if, I guess. But, at some point, I think the Bengals may need to look a different direction for red zone targets. Drew Sample had some nice catches in between the 20s, but, not in the red.
To be fair, Drew Sample on that second play was double covered. That was going to be a tough catch no matter what there in the end zone. But yeah, I agree with you about still the play calling. Mickey, you've got some thoughts. You want to rebuttal here, Scott, about the first and goal play? or second and goal, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want Burrow running at all. Like the kid's taking enough hits. And he's proven. I mean, we touted the records he's setting for his passes in the first 3 games. Let the kid win with his arm. Like, I have no problem with that play call at all, especially with our suspect run game to that point in the season. Throw the ball. I have no problem with that. The other thing, Nick, that I thought was interesting is, we go in at halftime down, right?
Oh, yeah, we need to talk about that too.
But then there's adjustments, right? And the third quarter, we score 17 unanswered points. Like, again, it's Jacksonville. But when was the last time the Bengals have come out of halftime, with just a shift like that? That's when Mixon started breaking things open. I think he scored both touchdowns in the third quarter. And then your buddy, Mr. Cavs, adds the last 3 for that. But that's big for the Bengals to come out at halftime and make a statement in a quarter like that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think myself, Mickey, of when the last time I saw a second half after some adjustments being made. I'm kind of drawn on a blank here. I can't think of one. But you're right. He scored both of those rushing touchdowns in the third after getting the receiving touchdown there at the end of the half. But once again, the Bengals do all of that great work to tie it, right? They tie it there with a minute left in the second quarter, and they allow Jacksonville to go down the field and kick a field goal. What? That's what's just so. It was just so baffling to me because actually, if you think about it, in both halves, they conceded points late, under 2 minutes. So, is this a scheme issue? Is it a players not fully grasping the situation? Because there were times there in that first 2-minute drill that Jacksonville's receivers were wide open with nobody within 10 yards of them. And you're thinking to yourself, what? How?
I hate the prevent defense. Like, I hate it. I mean, I've never been a fan, given a cushion so you don't get beat deep. Like, just play your game. Like, I don't know. I think, I think back to my days, right? They say if you play not to lose, then there's a good chance you won't win, or whatever the freaking saying was. I can't remember. Sorry, coach. But those are the types of things that drive you nuts. Like, you're just giving them 3 points for free because you're playing with a cushion so that, a touchdown's not giving up. No, press. Like, hit those receivers on the line. If you get beat, you get beat. But, like, there's the better chance that you're going to continue your momentum and just shut them down.
I think the phrase you were looking for is the prevent defense only prevents you from winning.
Maybe that might be it.
Well, they certainly weren't winning at halftime. I guess the only thing I was okay with there in the second half, giving up points late, is that because they were able to kick that field goal, it meant that the Bengals can say they won a 1-possession game. They ended that streak. That was the only reason I was kind of thankful that they kicked that field goal, right? Because now you don't have to talk about that, and you can eliminate that from the conversation. But still, again, conceding easy points there at the end of the half, Scott. I'm sure you were tearing out that hair.
I was, and the thing is, it's got to be an NFL coaching mentality. I don't know if it's a fear of failure mentality, a conservative mentality, or what. But because every year we see this, right? It's not the same coaches, it's not the same players, but it's the same problem. They had this problem under multiple defensive coordinators under Lewis. It seems like more just a conservative mentality amongst NFL coaches at the end of halves to almost concede points and not get beat deep. And like Mickey was saying, I agree with just stick with what was working. Why switch it up? Just stick with what was working. It's not like they got beat before. Do what got you there. And it's mind numbing. I think Paul Dehner Jr. even has an ongoing stat of the points given up by the Bengals
Crazy.
Right before half.
I guess, Anthony, 3 points is better than 7. I guess.
It is baby steps. This whole week was about baby steps, right? Look, I would always agree with what Mickey said about the prevent defense and these large cushions The one exception that I make to that is when you play a quarterback like Gardner Minshew, where he is short and at most intermediate passes only, right? So I think in that respect, I understand the mindset a little bit of letting things develop in front of them and hold them to the 7 points. When you're going up against an Aaron Rodgers or somebody like that that's going to pick you apart, then, I'm with you guys all day long about don't go prevent, play the defense you're used to playing. But I think a little bit I understand the mindset given the quarterback they were going against and his respective strengths. Overall, though, I'm seeing a lot of disagreements from my co-hosts there. But overall, look, I mean, it wasn't a touchdown. It is maddening that they keep giving up these points in crucial situations and right before halves, right before regulation's done, that sort of thing. They've got to find, I don't know if it's situational awareness. I don't know if it's a mental lapse. I don't know if it is the defensive play calling, but they got to figure out how to limit that damage.
I'm curious if your tune would be different had they lost.
Probably.
Well, look, there again. We're picking at straws here because there wasn't much wrong with this weekend. The Bengals actually did quite well. Even I think special teams, they were pretty solid. They had the one issue on the one kickoff where Wilson fumbled and slipped, gave them a poor starting field position. Randy Cavs was good, made all his field goals. He's made 10 in a row now since that miss. So all in all, if we had to give a letter grade, Mickey, what are you giving?
I'm gonna say an A-.
I'll take an A-. How about you, Scott?
I'd say B+.
AC?
B-.
Ooh,
I think, yeah, I mean, B for the win, but I think they left a lot of points out there, and I think they have some room to improve.
All right. I'll go B just to be different for you guys.
I mean, I'm going to make my case here, right? We established a running game, which we struggled. We had better play on the line. We can talk about the team you played, but you got to run the race that you're in, right? Like you're on the track that you're on. And so I think in this game, yeah, there were some miscues, but there's going to be that in every game. They didn't let them kill them. We adjusted the halftime. I mean, there's a lot of good things that we saw which is why I got them into that A-.
Okay. I'm not arguing that. I look, they won. That's all that matters. They got that off the schneid. Joe Burrow doesn't have to worry about getting that first NFL win anymore. That's over with and done with. Now they can move on and focus on Baltimore. We will talk about Baltimore a little bit later on in the show, but we will also be discussing what's going on with AJ Green. Is he done here with the Bengals? Because it's not looking good. But before we can do that, we just want to remind you to please leave a rating and review for Inside the Jungle on Apple Podcasts. Now, we didn't get any new written reviews this week. So if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, do us a solid and leave a written review. We will read some of those next week here on the show. To leave a review, it's as simple as heading over to our show on Apple Podcasts. Go to bit.ly/ITJApple. And of course, while you're at it, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel here at YouTube, bit.ly/ITJYouTube. And good news, if you're a podcast listener on Google Podcasts, our show is now available over there as well. So make sure you get subscribed there. And we've been kicking around the idea of having guests back on the show. And so we want to know from you who you'd like to hear from. We've had some great guests in the past, whether it be Paul Daner, Jeff Hobson, Jay Morrison. We'd love to hear from you. Who do you want to hear back on Inside the Jungle? Hit us up, insidethejunglepod@gmail.com. All right.
I can't believe you didn't shout out Munoz.
Yeah, we had Anthony Munoz. That's right.
That was an awesome
That was one of the very first interviews that we ever did. So, man.
Did we have Reggie Kelly?
We did have Reggie Kelly. That's right.
We had some solid ones.
We had Reggie Kelly. We also interviewed Gio Bernard when he was a rookie.
Yep.
And I think we did Ben Jarvis Green Ellis too.
Oh yeah, for the yes. What was that for?
I think it was some sort of deodorant thing.
Yes, you're right.
Going way back.
Yes.
Speaking of going way back, we're bringing back shout outs, right? Y'all remember how this went on the show. We gave a shout out to a listener or somebody on Twitter, just basically shouting you out. And so, Mickey, I want to hear from you. Give us a shout out for this week's show.
Mine is simple this week, Nick. Blast from the past. Guy he missed our first couple shows. You could see how it blew his mind when he realized it on Twitter. So I'm shouting out my man from up north, Stephen Reed, at Reed39. Follow him on Twitter. He's hilarious. I hope he listens to this when he's driving because, man, that dude's awesome. I miss him.
It's been a long time. That's right. Stephen Reed.
Yeah.
That is crazy funny. Good shout out, Mick. How about you, Scott?
Yeah, this week I'm going to give a shout out to my brother-in-law in Denver, Ryan, who dropped me some knowledge this morning on AJ Green. So I will be bringing you the stats that he brought me this morning when we get into our AJ Green discussion.
All right, good shout. How about you, AC? I know that's I'm probably putting you on the spot here.
No, that's I'm going to go, and I hope I don't steal your thunder here, Nick. I'm going to go with Mike Hudson.
Oh yeah, good shout.
Yeah, Mike Hudson. I know he's been responding to us a couple times. Been excited that this show is back. I think I don't know if I should say this on the air or not, but
yes,
I think
you can.
His name on his Twitter handle name now is like Mike Slutson or something. I think. But
I think his Twitter handle is at Mike Hudson sucks.
Okay, maybe that's it. Yeah, I don't know. He's changed it a couple times, but hilarious guy. And I remember he listened to the show way back when I first started with you guys.
Yeah.
So I hope I didn't steal your thunder on that one, Nick, but he definitely came to mind for shout outs.
You did not steal my thunder, AC. That's a great shout out as well. I'm going to give a shout out to a fan overseas. A longtime listener who used to communicate back and forth back in the day, Emilio Martinez over in Oslo, Norway. He sent a shout out to a tweet at us today saying he's looking forward to watching us live again. And so, yes, that is pretty cool. Emilio, we appreciate you listening. And what is impressive to me, being that I also do this other soccer show, he's a UEFA B licensed coach over in Europe, which is pretty high up. Like that's legit coaching status right there. So Emilio, thank you so much for listening. We appreciate you, buddy. And if you want shouted out here on the show, you got to follow us at Inside Jungle Pod on Twitter. We'll make sure we get you shouted out here on a future episode of Inside the Jungle. All right, let's talk a little AJ Green, shall we? One catch, and it was the first play of the game. That was it. Every throw after that, it looked painful. It looked like he was in pain out there.
It looked like Joe Burrow was thrown into a bag of sticks. Like it just seemed like nothing was in the right place, right? And that's not what AJ Green used to be. Nick, as you know, I'm getting up in years, and I still do the running and the CrossFit.
Yeah.
And sometimes the next morning, it sucks to get out of bed, and I hobble around like an old man. And watching that game, I was like, he's running routes like I feel after I work out terribly. It just doesn't look right. It looks like a shell of who he used to be. There's no confidence. It's just bad.
There was a play in I think it was the first half, Burrow's rolling out, and one of the few times AJ Green actually had some slight separation. The ball was, I guess, a little overthrown, but I still thought AJ probably had a chance to get it. But as his momentum after the ball hit the ground, his momentum carries him out of bounds. It looks like he's favoring or like he's pulling up. It just, something's not right, Scott.
Yeah, that was the first. I think that was the first drive. I think that was the third down play on that first drive. And I thought the same. I feel like every game we've seen him do this where he's, an incomplete pass, and it looks like he's pulling up lame. I like Mickey. I like your bag of sticks reference. I never heard that before, but you're right. I mean, he looks like us old guys out there, just a step slow, he just, yeah. I mentioned the stats I was going to before, and I know some of this is because of injuries, but in the last 36 Bengals games, this guy's got 60 catches for 820 yards. So, I don't know what that works out to price per catch, but it's a pretty good rate that he's getting for, 60 catches over the last basically 2.5 seasons. He hasn't had a touchdown since October of 2018.
That's crazy. Steve in our chat on YouTube tonight was there in person there at Paul Brown Stadium. He says AJ looked slow. He says he was in sand. I think he's hurt. I mean, Anthony, this is 4 games now. We keep hearing the whole rust, got to knock off the rust. He didn't get a preseason, didn't really get a training camp, but this doesn't look like rust. This looks different now.
I agree with you guys on a lot of what you said, and to Steve's point that you just pointed out on the screen there, Nick. I don't think AJ Green is hurt. I think he's actually playing afraid to get hurt again.
Yes,
and that is a very dangerous way to play the game of football, because that's
how you will get hurt.
That's how you get hurt, exactly. And not only that, I mean, it also hurts the team. And so some of these high contact plays, these jump ball plays where he knows he's going to get hit, it's almost like he's pulling up a little bit, not because he's hurt, but he just doesn't want to come down awkwardly on a knee, an ankle, any of that stuff. And to an extent, I understand. He's missed so much time and, done a ton of rehab, so I get that. However, the one thing I want to point out, and I want to continue to point out, yes, the rust factor. Yes, he missed preseason because he had a hamstring injury. So the rapport, and then no preseason games, the rapport was not able to be built with Joe Burrow. But if you look at those first 2 games, guys, especially, there were a couple of big plays that were missed that he was open. First game, wide open against the Chargers for a touchdown. That would have been the difference in the game. Burrow overshoots him. Second game, first throw of the game, I believe. Burrow, he's got to step on a defender, Green does. Burrow kind of throws the ball a little bit short and slightly out of bounds. Green makes a nice catch. They called it a catch initially, and then they call it back.
That's right.
So those are 2 big plays right there that directly affect the stat line, where he was open and ready to make the play. He made a diving catch on one of them, but just was out of bounds. So I think there
got hurt on that play too.
Yeah, he does. He's coming up a little hobbly a lot more often than usual, which I don't like to see. But like I said, I agree with you guys, but there have been a couple of moments where the big plays have been there. They just haven't connected on them.
I don't know, man. It's just harder and harder. It's not what we're used to seeing from AJ, right? We're used to him being this blazer. This guy is going to stretch the defense, get behind the DBs. I'm wondering, and I would love to speak with a Cardinals fan about what happened with Larry Fitzgerald as he got older, right? Because obviously we knew he was a threat down the field, but as he's aged, he's transitioned to more of almost like a TJ Houshmandzadeh role in a slot. Will get big, find that spot in the zone. I don't know if AJ Green is physically equipped to be that kind of third option in the middle of the field.
Yeah, I was going to say that, Nick. The difference is you look at their bodies, the way Fitzgerald is built. Fitzgerald is thick. Like he gets open now, and the past couple of years more so from being physical, which is something that AJ Green doesn't have. I mean, he just doesn't have that size and strength to get open the way a guy like Fitzgerald did. As he got older, or a guy like another one would be like Anquan Bolden, a guy that was able to get open when he was older just from being physical.
That's a great point, Nick, about a transition. Maybe the issue with AJ Green is they're trying to make him this 1A alpha dog wide receiver, and maybe he's just not that anymore, but he still can be effective on third downs in the red zone. Well, why are you not targeting AJ Green but Drew Sample in the red zone, right? I mean, it kind of is like maybe you're not situationally using him the best given his age and his past injuries, and maybe the Bengals should alter their plans a little bit. Right now, Tyler Boyd, and this has been the case for the past couple of years, Tyler Boyd's their best receiver.
Yep.
And he doesn't have the raw physical skills that AJ Green had or has, but he is the best receiver on the team right now. So maybe you focus more on Tyler Boyd and you make more situational game planning for AJ Green, red zone, third down, maybe the wide receiver screens, these high percentage plays that get the ball in his hands and let him get in a rhythm early.
Yeah, and honestly, you mentioned Boyd, but I think that T. Higgins has really just in a matter of 4 weeks, gents, we've seen a vast improvement in his game. And Burrow, obviously, it helps that he had that time in training camp to build a rapport with him. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, especially if they're going to go 5 wide as much as they are. Maybe you don't have AJ out wide stretching defenses. Like maybe you have to find him underneath. I don't know how do you fix this? How do you fix AJ? And I'll even throw this in there. And I don't think this is what it is, but do you think maybe he's trying to stay healthy to get that contract for after this year?
He might stay healthy. He's not going to get a contract playing the way he is. He just looks. There's nobody that's going to pay him the way he looks right now.
I don't know. Like, I'm not ready. I think, was it last week we talked about, will AJ be a Bengal next year? I forget the question. I was the only one that I think said, yeah. Like, I don't know. Like, I think it's foolish for us to expect him to be what he was. And I think the kind of money that the franchise tag gives him, is probably not what he'll get in the future. But, the guy had so much time off. He's built up no, rapport with this new era Bengals, but he's still having safeties come over top of him. He's still, the passing game's not broken, and he's still commanding attention. Imagine when they start shifting the second tier corners onto him, then he, lightning strikes, right? Like, yeah. I don't know. I still think he's a weapon. There's got to be a lot of rust, and
quit playing scared.
Yeah, but he's hurt coming into this season. So, there's a bunch not going his way. I don't know. I still think he gets worked out.
Yeah. Soundtrack to the Future on YouTube chiming in with make AJ your Eifert. Well, AJ's already Eifert, being hurt as much as he is. You see what I did there, AC?
Here's a question for you guys. I said this today to someone, half joking, half serious, but the way T. Higgins is playing, the way Boyd is playing, Mike Thomas is playing. At this point, would you rather have John Ross active than AJ Green? Would you rather have someone who's fast and can't catch, but can at least get open, versus someone who's slow and can't catch out there on the field?
No. At least AJ you can trust to. I don't know.
At this point, you can't
run the right route. John Ross, and I was a big John Ross guy. John Ross has proven to be very unreliable, whether it's effort, whether it's running the right route, whether it's catching the ball when he does run the right route and the ball's to him. I'm kind of in the camp with Mickey where I think it's coming. I thought this would have been the breakout game for AJ this week as well, but
so did I said he'd have 100 yards. I was not even close.
I think it's on its way. And I know it's hard to be patient because we've had to wait for years for him to get healthy. But for me, I still think, and to Mickey's point, which I thought was a great one, AJ's commanding the attention. He's still getting the safeties to come over and double team him. And that may be opening things up for some of the guys you mentioned, Scott, Mike Thomas, Tyler Boyd, etc.
Yeah. Bill in the chat room says, LOL, Ross over Green. Hell no.
You would have missed out on that one catch for 3 yards this week, Nick. What would we have done without that?
Oh, man. And he was targeted. I don't remember how many times he was it 5 times this weekend? There was a play in the second half where he basically gets hit in the hands and drops it and came up injured on that play. I don't know. I'm still not in the play John Ross camp over AJ Green, but I don't know. I just want to see more from 18, and maybe it's unfair because of what we've seen in years past with him. But I don't know. To me, one for 3 yards in a game is not what our franchise tag players should be getting, right? This is from Lloyd on Twitter. He says Auden Tate would do more with AJ's snaps at this point. What do you guys think about that?
We kind of forgot about him, didn't we?
What do you guys think?
I mean,
not
playing
everybody at once, but
he's playing AJ's spot at times, right? I mean, he's going in there and playing the same spot. And again, I think this is where I kind of go back to what I said earlier: is maybe you just drop different situational game planning, and you kind of mix these guys around a little bit. And if you're really focused on getting AJ Green, or if there's a matchup you want to exploit, you got to try and move him around a little bit. That in years past, AJ Green moved around a lot. He was split out wide a lot. In later years, he did play in the slot and was able to make some plays every once in a while from there. And I think they need to move him around a little bit and try and create opportunities for him to maybe get open a bit more than he has been able to in the first couple of games.
Well, we want to hear from you, folks. What do you think the Bengals should do with AJ Green? What are you hoping to see out of AJ Green? Hit us up via email, insidethejunglepod@gmail.com. All right, let's look ahead, shall we, gents? Win one is behind the Bengals now. They can build on that. Unfortunately, the next stretch of games is not exactly easy. This weekend they play the Baltimore Ravens. We all know who the Ravens are. They're coming off a rough game as well against the Chiefs, where they lost to the Super Bowl champions. They did win over the weekend against the Redskins, so it wasn't a pretty game against the Redskins by any stretch of the imagination, but they are one of the better teams in the AFC. There's no question about it. Given that, what does success look like for the Bengals this weekend against the Ravens, Mickey?
100 yards rushing. I mean, seriously, when you look at what the Ravens have done this year, the Browns were able to run against them, but the Browns' running game is outstanding, right? But then when you look at what the Redskins or the football team, was able to do.
Did I say Redskins too? Man, I'm out of practice.
You said okay. Washington, I think. They had 69 yards rushing, right? And then Houston had 51 yards rushing. So they're obviously going to stop running. On the opposite of that, so I think if you get 100 yards rushing, like you've done well. Who, in your opinion, Nick, who's a better quarterback, Haskins or Burrow?
Ooh, I'm biased there because of my hatred for that team in Columbus, but I would say from a throwing standpoint,
he doesn't play for the Buckeyes. He doesn't play for the Buckeyes.
I know.
Anymore.
I would say Burrow from a throwing standpoint, but if you're asking, man, if Haskins has to run the ball, then he might be a better quarterback. I would say Burrow.
I would say Burrow too, and I am a fan of the team from Ohio. But Haskins was able to get 314 yards in the air against Baltimore, and the way that Burrow's been throwing the ball, we're gonna have to air it out against the Ravens. So I think if you tack that 100 yards rushing, like if you get some momentum with that rushing game that opens up that passing game, I think that's success.
All right. So Mickey is saying that the rushing game, getting 100 yards, is what success looks like for the Bengals this weekend. Scott, I kick it over to you. What does success look like for the Bengals this weekend?
Nick, I'm a little disturbed to hear you say that you were having trouble figuring out if Haskins or Burrow was the better quarterback. We got Haskins up here, got his first 300-yard game of his career last week, and Burrow just set a record for 3 straight for a rookie.
Okay, fair enough. He's played 4 games. Haskins has, well, it's not that many more, but yeah.
More than 4. Success, I would say success being, making this competitive game. I think this is a good barometer for the Bengals. They're playing what many think to be a Super Bowl contender. So I think it's good to see how they stack up. I think getting a loss, a 1-possession loss actually in this situation would be somewhat of a win. I think the second part of that win is making sure they keep Burrow healthy.
Safe.
Yeah, I'm concerned with the way this line has looked in the first 3 games. I'm concerned of what Baltimore may be able to do to expose this line.
How about you, Anthony? What does success look like this weekend against the Ravens?
Stopping the run. The Bengals need to be able to contain Lamar Jackson, contain that stable of incredible running backs that Baltimore has. They need to be able to limit the damage there, because then what happens, Baltimore runs the ball, they'll get points early, they get a lead, and then Bengals become one-dimensional where they can't run the ball very often or very effectively with Joe Mixon. They're going to force Joe Burrow to drop back 50 times and throw the ball all over the place. And that's what you want Joe Burrow to be, in that 35 to 40 throw range. When he was throwing the ball 60 times, what was that, against Cleveland, 61 times or something? That's not an ideal situation. What you want is what you saw last week, where Mixon's getting quite a few touches and obviously high production out of those touches, and Burrow throwing, 35 or so passes, 300 yards, etc. But the defense needs to be able to stop the run. They haven't really been able to do that very well this year. DJ Reader's been kind of a bright spot in that facet, but teams have been able to run the ball pretty effectively against the Bengals. Last week was a little bit of an exception, but there were still some gash plays that were made there. So hopefully Logan Wilson comes back from that concussion. Hopefully Geno Atkins comes back and plays, and that should provide a bit of a spark and some help in that regard.
They're going to be missing Mike Daniels out with an elbow injury. Geno practiced, it sounds like, for most of the week last week, but just didn't end up getting activated for the game. That would be a great addition if they could get him playing this weekend against the Ravens. Correct me if I'm wrong, gents. I think we still ended up giving up 100 yards rushing to Jacksonville over the weekend, did we not? I don't remember what the final numbers ended up being, but I still think Robinson ended up having a pretty good day himself.
He had about 71 yards or 75 yards, and I think the Jaguars as a whole were held to slightly under 100 yards. But
it's better than what they've won.
Right. They were relatively close, though. Your point still kind of stands.
Had the big 41-yard run not been called back for a hold, they definitely would have been over 100 yards. So, I can't disagree with all three of you. For me, what success would look like this weekend for the Bengals would be, right now I think they're a 2-touchdown underdog for this game. The early Vegas line. I think if they lose, I'll be honest, I'm not expecting them to go and win against Baltimore. I'm just not, because Baltimore's really good, right? They're really, really good. Now, I could be way wrong, and maybe Joe Burrow is that quarterback that changes everything, right? Maybe. I'm not saying he is. I'm just saying, how great would it be if he goes against the Ravens this weekend, pulls out a win, and looks and I don't know. Maybe I've got the orange and black blinders on, and I'm excited about what's happening. But for me, success would be if you get Joe Burrow, if he's got 300 yards again, just keep riding that train. I don't know. Am I crazy?
You are. He'll have 300 yards because
garbage time.
We're gonna. No, I don't even know if it's garbage, but we're going to be passing a lot, right? I think. AC also nailed it, like containing the run. Containing Lamar, making him beat you on the pass is another thing. And I don't think you're crazy, but I don't think Burrow's going to be the difference maker unless he starts taking snaps on the defensive side of the ball and, pressuring the quarterback and stuff in the run.
How about, I guess success for me would be Lamar Jackson being held to 30 yards rushing or less. That's success, right?
Most definitely.
Yeah. I'm not expecting them to go and win, but man, how great would that be though, right? At that point, all of the negativity, not that there's a whole lot of negativity now, but maybe it's the narrative changes, right? That finally the Bengals have that quarterback. And by the way, that's not a slouch on Dalton because he's played Baltimore and won. But I don't know. It would be kind of nice.
Yeah, I mean, I was just looking at this, Nick. Last year up in Baltimore at the end of the season, the Bengals lost 23-17 despite giving up 152 yards rushing to Lamar Jackson. So they did that without AJ Green, kept it within a possession.
Kept it respectable.
So
is there any chance the Ravens are overlooking the Bengals?
No.
Yes.
No. And to your point, Nick, and I think Scott kind of said this a little bit as well, but these are the types of games you got to start learning to win if you're the Bengals. It doesn't have to necessarily be this week, but these are stepping stone kind of games. If your plans are to start winning championships with Joe Burrow under center, you got to start going into Baltimore and beating them while they have Lamar Jackson in this great running game. You got to beat the Steelers on Monday Night Football. You got to start winning these games, and the Bengals traditionally have not done that. Maybe Burrow's the X factor that brings them through to do that. Again, I don't know if it happens necessarily this week or needs to happen this week, but at some point you got to start winning these games if you're going to get to where you want to go with Joe Burrow as your quarterback.
AC nails it, right? Like if we're here next week and we're talking about, man, the Bengals lost on the last second field goal, I'm pissed. I'm not celebrating that we almost won. You know what I mean? Like, these are the games that you need to win. If the Bengals lose by 27, then we're here talking about, like, we're not there, and we'll be talking about the line and whatever our deficiencies are. So if it's a close game, I'm not celebrating almost wins anymore. Like, that's the old Bengals. AC said it perfectly.
How much, and we talk about it a little bit with the bringing back Redmond. Obviously, he's been in the division. He's familiar. So it's not like they brought in somebody off the street that hasn't played against the Ravens. I think maybe bringing him back and getting him back involved is going to help with that. The fact that he's familiar with the Ravens, right? I mean, that certainly helps too. Because I think you almost have to start him at right guard this weekend after how he played against Jacksonville, right? I mean, he's got to be the starter at right guard after what's been going on.
Of course.
I think that helps too. All right, it's that time of the show.
Hey, ladies, quit your babbling, because now's the time in the show when all the boys pull out their cojones and make bold predictions.
That's right. Uncle Rob with the audio. All right, last week, Mickey and Scott were perfect on their predictions. So I will let them start things off. Mickey, give us your bold prediction for this weekend against the Ravens.
I'm tying it in to, what we do next, I think. But I predict the Bengals win this week.
That's your bold prediction?
That's my bold prediction. It's extremely bold, right? Like, it's. Yeah. I don't know what the spread is. I don't know.
You stole my bold prediction, Mickey.
But I don't know. Like, I think there's a lot of things set up, and you guys know I'm bullish on this team, but there's a lot of things set up that I think play well when these two teams match up. And I watched the entire Chiefs Ravens game, and don't get me wrong, I'm not comparing the Bengals to the Chiefs at all, but I think the Ravens total yards was like 100 yards for the game. And so there's a blueprint on how to stop this team from moving the ball. And if the Bengals hit their quick passes, don't, come out conservative and then play the right defense, I think there's a shot.
I think you've got some relatives saying that that's a bold prediction.
Tommy Holler, he knows, he agrees with me.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, Scott, you said that Mickey stole your bold prediction. You going to stick with it?
He did. So I will make my prediction slightly bolder and slightly one up him. I'm going to say they win by double digits. I think a 10-point victory, a touchdown and a Cavs field goal.
Cavs field goal. Okay. All right. So Scott's going for plus 10 here. I don't know how you top that, Anthony. What's your bold prediction?
I'm going to try. I mean, I keep having one, and then you guys go crazy with it, and then you go further, then you go further. So I got to go even further. I will say Bengals win, and how they win is by a Randy Bullock 55-plus yard field goal in crunch time to get the win. That's how they win the game.
It's not going to happen because you didn't use his name, Randy Cavs. Because you went Randy Bullock, you went official.
I know.
That's all right.
I was trying to show him a little more respect because he's been perfect since that.
He has been
awful kick, but
no respect after faking a calf injury, missing a field goal.
Double calf injury.
I was going to say correction, double calf injury.
Wow, that's a good one, Anthony. I think I might stick with mine from last week. I'll say AJ Green has 100 yards because that's still pretty bold. So I'm going to go with that one. I think
He
AJ
killed
Green
them,
ends up.
man.
What's that?
He has traditionally killed them.
He has. He definitely has. So I'll go with the AJ Green with 100 yards receiving this weekend against the Ravens. That'd be a lot of fun, wouldn't it? I think if AJ Green has 100 yards receiving, I think the Bengals actually are winning this game. That's my my thought there. So, all right, we want to hear from you. Your bold predictions. Make sure you hit us up on Twitter at Inside Jungle Pod. All right, it's that time of the show where we predict the outcome. AC, since you went last on the bold predictions, actually I technically did, but I'll throw it to you first. Give me your score prediction for this weekend.
My bold prediction is not a realistic prediction in my estimation. So I'm gonna really separate my score prediction from my bold prediction. I do think the Bengals keep this relatively close, and maybe even a one possession game. I think right now where I've got it is about 33-24-ish. So I know that's slightly more than a one possession game, but I'll go 33-24. Maybe the Bengals have the ball late, try and make it interesting. But that's what I've got right now. Again, I'm separating my actual prediction from my bold prediction.
Sure. So you're going for a Ravens win. How about you, Scott?
Unlike Anthony, I'm going to keep my bold prediction in line with my actual prediction. I'm not sure that's a smart idea, but I will go Bengals 33, Ravens 23 for the 10-point victory.
All right. All right. Mickey, how about you?
31-27 Bengals.
Man, I don't know in the history of Inside the Jungle. It was pretty rare when I picked a loss, right? I don't know if it ever happened. And I just feel really bad. I don't think I can bring myself to do it. I just can't. Like, that's not a knock on you, AC, because I think you did it multiple times when we did the show. But I think they win. I like how they played against the Jaguars. I know it was the Jaguars, but I think they win. So I'll say 24-21. Bengals win it late with a Randy Bullock field goal. There, I said it.
Tag team in my bold prediction. I love
Crazy talk right there, right? Holy cow. So hopefully that's what happens this weekend as the Bengals take on the Ravens. This is
Either we just all lost a ton of credibility, or next week we're going to gloat so much when we were right.
That's true. Man, I'll tell you what, I'm so glad we brought this show back because it's been so much fun talking about the Bengals, and it was an itch that definitely needed scratched here on my end. I love chatting Bengals. These hours fly by. I can't believe that we've gone through an hour talking Bengals, and it's been a lot of fun. We want you tuning in, though. We're doing this every Tuesday night at 9:00 live on YouTube. So make sure you join us. Eventually, as more and more people start coming back, we'll open up the phone lines. We want to hear from the guys like John from Kentucky, Chris from Dayton. I wonder how he's feeling right about now. Probably still digesting that boot.
Eat your boot.
Fatal content.
Yeah, Fatal's not watching tonight. No way. His heater playing.
Yeah.
He's catching us. He's catching us later tomorrow.
For sure. Steve in the chat room says, "Gotta love homers." Well, I can't deny that one. So yes. But yeah, come back to we're doing this thing live. Eventually we'll get a phone line going again. If that's what you even want. If you want to call in and have your say, let us know. InsideTheJunglePod@gmail.com. And if we get more and more responses, maybe we'll fire that bad boy up and open up the phone lines again. On that note, let's wrap things up. Mickey, as always, appreciate you being on the show, bud. You got any final thoughts?
No, like I said when we started, the show after a win is so much better than the show after a loss, Nick.
Yes, it is.
Let's keep it going.
That's right. Good stuff, Mickey. Appreciate you, buddy. Beam me up, Scotty. You got any final thoughts?
Yeah, I think that take a look at Mickey was saying this is what they need to do. They need to win these games. They're going to have a chance here coming up. I was looking at their schedule. They got their next 5 games. They got a pretty tough stretch at Baltimore, at Indy. Who else was in there? Cleveland, Tennessee, and then Pittsburgh. So they're going to have 5 opportunities in a row to prove that they can compete with some of the better teams in the AFC. And I'm looking forward to see how they do.
Yeah. That should be a fun stretch. Scott, appreciate you being on the show and appreciate you getting the tech right tonight. It was good. We were on time. It was beautiful.
Like the Bengals, I'm improving baby steps.
And last but not least, the background king, the best coast, the left coast, Mr. AC, Anthony Cosenza. Final thoughts?
Well, I know we all want wins and all of that, but I will say this, at least we can get to continue to watch Joe Burrow. And I think that Joe Burrow, even if these games, this tough stretch that Scott mentioned, even if they end up being losses, I think they're going to be entertaining to watch. This isn't going to be like the 3-game stretch of Ryan Finley type of offensive football. This is a lot different. Joe Burrow, even in the losses, the ties has really kept the team in games and has continued to make a lot of great throws. So at least, even if the wins aren't there, I think Joe Burrow is going to keep things interesting and at least fun to watch for Bengals fans.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so thankful we weren't doing this show last year because I don't know how I would have reacted during the Ryan Finley era. Oh, quickly want to forget. It's been a lot of fun watching the Bengals again. A lot of fans feeling that way. I know he was mic'd up over the weekend, and so I'm looking forward to catching all the hijinks of Joe Burrow on inside the NFL this week on Showtime, and I'm sure he'll be on NFL Turning Point and whatnot. It'll be a lot of fun. So appreciate you 3 for being on the show. Appreciate everybody tuning in live on YouTube. It's been a lot of fun chatting Bengals with you folks as well. That's going to do it for episode 3 of Inside the Jungle. For Scott, for Mickey and Anthony, I'm Seubs. We will catch everybody next week here on Inside the Jungle. Hoo day!
Who dey?